I'll call to order Committee of the Whole for Tuesday, January 7th. Let the record show that all committee members are present. We have no unfinished business tonight. New referrals, though. First thing on the agenda is a department head presentation. I'll kick that over to Mayor Ailio, and he can kind of...
Thank you. I thought with having two new members of the council and as a refresher to the council members that are the incumbents, I thought it'd be a good idea that we have the department heads come here tonight and give a brief 5 to 10 minute explanation of what each of their departments does. So we're going to start off with Chris Shuari.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Chris Shuari, Youth Bureau and Recreation Department Supervisor. This is my 3rd year at the helm of the department. The Recreation Department, we encompass and we do all the programming for all the child, adult, and senior citizen programming that the city of Olean offers. We work out of several facilities, the biggest of which is the William O. Smith Recreation Center, the John J. Ash Community Center. We also do programming out of the Bartlett House. In the summer, we do programming out of Franchot Park, as well as some of our city playgrounds. We have a year-round program, summer program that goes from June through August. Our winter program that we're in now goes from September through April. I'm going to give you a brief rundown of some of the programming that we do and I'm going to start with the William O. Smith Recreation Center. This year we opened the center for ice skating on September 2nd, which was the earliest ever in the history of that facility. It will be open through April 5th for ice skating. So this is our longest season to date. And the reason that's been possible, 2 reasons. One, the recently completed renovation has allowed us to open up earlier and stay open longer, and customer demand. Some of the programming that we do out of the William O. Smith Recreation Center, we have a Learn to Skate program that goes for 5 months, October to March. Currently we have about 20 kids per session in that. I have an instructor that runs that for us, a youth hockey coach. Also out of that, we have our public ice skating sessions. We have public ice skating 7 days a week. That recreation center is open to the public over 100 hours a week, the entire length of the winter. The only day that we close is Christmas Day. So over the past 2 weeks, through the Christmas and New Year's holiday, we had over 4,000 people pass through the doors just for public ice skating. So the place has been very busy. We're very happy with it, and we're constantly trying to promote and get new user groups. One new program that we started last year was our ice bocce program. Kind of combines lawn bocce, horseshoes, that sort of. I have a group from the John Ash Center that plays every Thursday. We're trying to expand that now to In Tandem and some other community service agencies. One of my goals since taking over is to try to expand the scope of the department and to reach out to more user groups, and we're steadily working towards that. At the John J. Ash Center, that facility is open daily from about 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. They have several different programs that they run. They have a Tai Chi program. They have a coffee and breakfast bar that they have daily. They have a lunch program, and it also serves as a Meal on Wheels distribution site for the surrounding area, as well as numerous holiday parties. The facility is also rented out to folks for parties, events, wedding receptions, shows. Last year, for the fiscal year, we had over 45 rentals, private rentals of that facility. So that facility is used heavily. Terry Shaw is our hands-on supervisor of that facility. Together we work on the programming. We're always looking to add new programming. We're going to start country line dancing this week, as well as our aerobics program is run out of that facility. In the summer, also, the department oversees the Franchot wading pool. Again, part of my responsibility is to hire the staff, train the staff. We have to work in conjunction with the health department to make sure our regulations are being met, as well as keep track of attendance and maintenance issues as they arise. In addition to that, we also run a summer lunch program as part of our summer recreation program. Our summer recreation program for folks that need a refresher is a 7-week program that runs late June through mid-August. And we have daily and weekly special events. The key component of this program is we want to get kids involved, we want to get them moving, and we want to keep their minds stimulated in the summer. So everything that we do in that program is geared towards meeting those 3 goals. And that is a 7-week program that we run every summer. The department is also responsible for doing all the booking for the facilities, including our park pavilions, the John Ash Center, the Bartlett House, the William L. Smith Rec Center, Radnor Stadium. We handle all the bookings for that from the public. One thing that we've done this year is we are heavily promoting the Bartlett House and the museum adjacent to it. We have several new events that have gone on up there. We have 2 psychic fairs. We have a doll show upcoming this March. We have Tea on the Porch. We are also working in conjunction with the Greater Olean Chamber of Commerce and their Stroll Olean events to get people to come visit the center. This June, we're fortunate enough we have a coach bus trip coming from Buffalo to view the center. 60 people are coming down. So we're constantly looking to try to expand our base, get the marketing out there. A big part of what I do is getting the word out to let people know, hey, this is here, please use it, give it a try, and please come back. So with that having said, I'm going to be brief. Any questions right now? Okay, the St. John's program I forgot to mention. Thank you, Mayor. Right now, in fact, when I get out of here, I'm going down to a youth basketball game. We just started that. We have 87 kids this year in our St. John's program for basketball. In addition to that, we have our after-school program. Runs the entire length of the school year, 3 to 5:30. And we're getting 20 plus kids daily for that. In addition to that, we run special holiday parties out of there and clinics. Lynn, do you have a question?
Yeah, do you know roughly how many kids showed up for our roller skating, which is new this year?
Okay, our roller skating program that we started last summer, our average weekly attendance was about 50 people, and that was for the first year. And that was offering roller skating 3 days a week. So that program will be starting back up. I'm going to start it earlier this year. We're going to start probably second week of May. In addition to that, thanks for reminding me, spring events coming up at the William L. Smith Rec Center. We have our annual Easter egg hunt. We have a AKT Sports Jitsu show coming up, annual home show, as well as our second annual craft show, which will be held the first Saturday in May. And proceeds from that go right back to the center to buy. Last year we bought roller skates, so we're thinking along those same lines. So currently working on that too. And one other big program that we're involved in is right across the street at Lincoln Park. Lincoln Park Concert Series. I've already started calling folks. We're looking to expand that a little bit more. Last year we had 17 concerts. We were averaging easily over 200 folks per concert. And the feedback has been phenomenal. People are very happy with the Lincoln Square building. So this is all of what we're trying to do is we're trying to get people downtown to look at all the renovations and all the traffic, get people to go to businesses, so it's all connected. Questions?
I just had maybe this is an obvious point, but so you said that this is the longest period that the ice has ever been open at the rec center?
Correct, operational, yes.
And that's because the new equipment is able to make and hold ice
Correct.
longer? Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
without that dehumidifier, it doesn't happen.
Okay, and that was something we didn't really have a very good function?
Not at all.
Okay,
No, prior to the renovation.
good,
Yes.
good.
So,
How much longer would you say it, I mean, I don't,
2 weeks. We've extended the season by 2 weeks, a week in the fall and a week in the spring.
okay,
And as soon as we opened up, St. Bonaventure was at the door, Alfred was at the door, University of Pittsburgh at Bradford practices at our facility through mid-October until the Bradford rink opens. This year we were able to get the University of Pittsburgh and Bradford to play all their home games at the William L. Smith Recreation Center.
awesome.
Because they're very happy with the facility and they're very happy with the time slot that we can give them.
I had a friend from Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, was in for the holidays, and he went, brought his family ice skating. He said it was a really nice building, and upkeep was nice. They didn't have that in Stroudsburg. He said he wished he had a facility like that down there.
We're lucky.
Yeah, we're very thankful for it.
How about security systems or security cameras there? Can you talk about that?
They are in place.
Yep.
There's an alarm system in place, fully functioning. It's linked into the dispatch center, and we've had no further issues with those sorts of problems.
Did they ever find who did that?
Yes, they've been arrested.
It was the same kid did that in the mall, and wasn't it? Did I read that? One person.
And the swastikas or not?
Well, I don't know about that.
That wasn't the separate case. That was a separate case. Wasn't that?
Great job.
Thank you. Any other questions? I've got our winter program here. I'll give one to Alderman Anastasia, one to Alderman Panis. The rest of you, I believe, got them in October. So if you'd like another copy, let me know. Please check us out on social media. We're pushing that heavily too. Please the word out. Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks
Chris.
everybody.
Okay, Carrie, You are up next.
Okay.
I think Tiffany has a handout for everyone.
Thank you very much.
I'll just briefly go over some of the administrative and oversight of some of our programs that we do. I think everyone would be aware of the Downtown Property Improvement Program. It's been around since 2003. It's our facade program. Our office, meets with prospective applicants. We review their financial information, and we coordinate the review with the revolving loan fund committee, which is comprised of local bankers. We also directly administer and we monitor all the homeownership assistance programs from 2000 until the latest one that we did from 2016. Our office is also the liaison between the administration and the planning board. We review all the site plan and special use permit applications. I wrote down for your review the basic functions of the planning board. Our office works in direct coordination with code enforcement. They're the ones that initially take on the applications, the seeker, make sure it's a complete application, forward it for my review, and to meet with the applicants and the planning board. We make sure that the project's in line with the city zoning ordinance. We generally set conditions and do approvals if it's deemed to be a fitting project for the location. Most people are aware, we have the Olean Area Transit System, which is a public transit system made up of partners, which is the City of Olean, the Seneca Nation of Indians, Cattaraugus County, and Tandem, St. Bonaventure, and our latest partner this past year is the City of Salamanca. We have one of the most unique transit systems in the state of New York, and the reason for that is we are a partner-based share. I work to formulate different partner shares and negotiate and do agreements with all those partners involved, in addition to creating the budget and going for the federal funding, their supplemental employment service funding. So I'm able to prove, and I do get the data. Whether I go on the bus or if I have to do surveys, I'm able to prove that people use it for employment. And so then I do all the reimbursement requests. I do all the capital projects for the buses, whether it's installing a bus shelter, cleaning the bus shelter, getting a bus bill in order and getting the procurement for that. You'll notice there's a bus on the side of the bus. There's a phone number that's actually our department. We do the daily dispatching and answer all the calls, whether someone wants to know the location of the bus. And we also have been able to purchase technology that you can actually track the bus in real time. You can find the Smart Tracks app in Google Play or in the Apple Store. So it has all the routes, including the nighttime routes for Bonaventure and the casino. For New York State Homes and Community Renewal, that's one of our funding sources. We've applied to on numerous occasions throughout the year. The latest programs and funding that we've been awarded, as you may recall, is our microenterprise program, which had to do with entrepreneurship and business startups and expansion. The other one that we were awarded, I applied for $416,000 for the furnishings and fixtures and equipment to assist the Hampton Inn and Suites on Buffalo Street. Our office is also involved with the Blight Task Force Committee. With that, we were able to apply and receive funding again for LIFT, the Local Initiative Support Corporation. That's for the zombie houses, so it's our 2.0 initiative. We were able to keep a zombie coordinator employed, and half of that person's salary will be reimbursed for 2 years. That zombie coordinator, the mayor, and myself attend the Cattaraugus County Land Bank meetings to ensure that we're reporting on our efforts with blight and the homes and demolition and what we have going on, and to try to coordinate with them in their efforts. I think everyone is aware of the DRI projects, and with that, I get involved with the planning, the outreach, the implementation, the MWBE, which is the Minority Women Business Enterprise. I'm actually the city's EEO4 officer, that's the Equal Employment Opportunity. By federal law, we have to do reporting to the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, so I work to keep us in compliance with that. Also the city civil rights officer, and I do the reporting to keep the city in compliance with that as well, along with the Section 3, which has to do with low and very low income residents and businesses to ensure that they receive economic opportunities. From the city's fair housing officers, you recall the mayor generally has April become Fair Housing Month, and then we hold a public hearing. And I keep us in compliance. I review our fair housing policies and procedures, and if any complaints or discriminations found, I take the appropriate steps to address that. I'm the city's prevailing wage rate officer, so I review all the prevailing wage rate and job classifications for any type of work or public work that is performed within the city. If there's any revisions needed, I contact the contractor directly, and I do put a formal notification in writing whether the contractor is in compliance, so that way we're covered by the New York State Department of Labor and the New York Foundation for Fair Contracting. I do the MWBE reporting that is inclusive of bid docs, utilization plans, and oversight of projects to make sure that they meet the project goals, so that the city, is able to be reimbursed with the funding awards that we do receive. For the airport, I'm the FAA Civil Rights and DBE officer. Our office is also charged with carrying out the duties of the Olean Local Development Corporation, the Urban Renewal Agency. And our office does a good portion of creating and submitting applications for funding, whether it's asked for to go after federal, state, local, or private sources by the administration. And once we are awarded, our office does the monthly, quarterly, 6-month, and year-end reporting for those grants that our office is involved with. We're also charged with creating and updating plans, whether it's form-based code, the urban renewal plan, and you'll also see some of the boards that our office serves on.
Is that all?
Anybody have any questions for Carrie?
Perry, I do. I remember when we started and we did put together the 20-year comprehensive plan. Do you know when that's coming to?
Yes, it was from 2005 to 2025.
25. Okay.
The common council is actually in charge of updating the plan, so that's something that they'll want to think of, and our office, of course, would be available to assist in that.
Well, I remember I sat on the board of it last time, and I think it took us 2 or 3 years to put it together. So.
Yeah, I tried to revise it there then too.
Yeah, you were.
It was taking a minute.
Just curious when it was due.
Okay, thank you, Carrie. Greg Piota.
Okay, the assessor's office. Our office employs myself as the assessor, and then a full-time assessor's aide. We also have an appointed board of assessment review. The assessor is required to be certified by New York State. There's a certain amount of classes to take within a 3-year period of time. The aide doesn't have any requirements, but I like to send to a class a year just to keep up with what's going on in the office. The Board of Assessment Review consists of 3 to 5 appointed members who conduct the hearings for the grievance hearings, which is the 4th Tuesday in May. Anybody with a complaint on their assessment would come to the Board of Assessment Review. They would hear them, hear their complaints, and then make a determination. They're the final determination when the final roll comes out. Our office has to adhere to the provisions of the New York State real property tax law with respects to record keeping, exemption administration, tax and assessment administration, and we follow the state assessment calendar. The state assessment calendar is basically July 1st is our valuation date, which means that's the time. July 1st is a snapshot of market values for the next year's assessment roll. January 1st, we have to have all our applications sent out for renewals for senior citizens, fully exempt, clergy, and I think that's it for the renewals. And they all have to be in on March 1st. March 1st is our taxable status date. That's when all exemptions have to be in, and it's also a snapshot in time on the condition of the property. So if, say, someone tears a garage down, if it happens on March 2nd, it's fully assessed for the next year because it has to be down before March 1st. May 1st is when I submit the tentative roll. I submit the tentative roll based off of March 1st condition, and after that, they have until grievance day to submit an application for grievance. They have before here to read complaints. Let's see, during that time period, I have to sit with the roll. The state requires me to sit for a certain amount of hours before grievance day. It's kind of an old archaic thing where before the internet, where people would come to my office and review the roll. So I have to sit there on a Saturday, and no one ever comes in because they can look on the internet to see the assessments. But by law, I have to do it. The fourth Tuesday of May is always grievance day. That's when the Board of Assessment Review meets, makes their determinations. And then July 1st is when the final roll comes out. After that, basically it's only a court order that will be able to change that. That way you can make your budgets, the school district can make their budget, and the county can make theirs. Our responsibilities, basically just to safeguard and maintain the current information on all records of real property. Which is, land size, dimensions, the description of the property, what type of property it is, building and improvement inventory, estimated values of the property, and all the title transfers that the property has had, current and historical. We also do the exemption administration for the city. That would be senior citizen exemption, veterans exemption, clergy exemption, any business exemption, all the nonprofits. We used to do the STAR exemption, but the state has taken that over, which is nice because that was a lot of work. So we do that, and like I said, all those applications have to be in by March 1st, taxable status date. Property tax administration, our assessor's office is unique in New York State because we handle all the tax bills for the city and the county. I work with the IT department to create the files for the tax bills, and then we'll physically send out the tax bills to the property owners. Whereas most places they contract out with the county to send them out. The reasoning we do that is because we get to keep the penalties when county taxes are collected, which add up to more than the fees that we pay.
I see in here where you said the school contracts with the county and you keep the penalties. Is there any way you can get the school's business to go through your office?
No, because then the county creates their file. We don't create their, and I get asked, but that's another headache that I don't know if I want to take on. But I'm not sure how the school district collects their own also. So you can go pay at the business office, I believe. So I don't know if they.
I'm just saying if there was something that the city could gain by that, collecting the penalties, we can collect the taxes at the city clerk's office. Just like in an extra revenue that might be there.
Yeah, the only thing against that, but it's not in our case because there's very few properties. Most school districts overlap municipalities, but in our case, there's very few that overlap. We could collect. That'd be something for the school district. I don't know if they'd be willing to. I don't know what all entails as far as their collections.
We can look at it.
How much of a headache it is for them? It's got to be a headache for them too. They've got to be looking out for it.
Well, if you notice on your school tax bills, you mail it in, it goes to Warsaw.
So do ours.
Huh?
So do ours.
They?
Yeah,
you
that's
mail it.
5-star. 5-star does
okay.
our collection.
Okay.
If you mail them in, and so they just send it to their main branch in North South. Building permits. Every building permit issued by code enforcement gets sent to our office throughout the year, and to update the property records for each property, and that way I can create a value of the property. Say they added an addition, tore a garage off, I'll have to adjust those for the next year's roll. And then add it into our inventory system, create a new sketch on the property record card. Data collection. We did a full data collection back in 2009 when we did the citywide reevaluation. And over the last 10 years, we've just kept up with the inventory changes through our building permits. In addition to all that, we get calls from attorneys, banks, lending institutions on a daily basis about properties, and we assist in any way we can. We also record all the deeds for all the properties in the city of Olean. They have to be recorded here before they're sent to Little Valley for recording at the county. This way we can send sales verification forms out to the buyers, just to make sure that our information is correct on the deed and on our property record cards. That's it.
Any questions for Greg?
I just want to let you know that Grievance Day is my second favorite holiday. So go every year. Even if I don't have anything to fight, I just drink them all
Start
away.
with Rob Bell, Fire Chief.
Oh, changed things up a little bit, didn't he? Yeah.
Just woke up.
Oh, yeah, huh?
I
So,
have one of these for everyone too.
yeah, pass it out. Give me one for me. Please. So, okay, the back in the 90s or so, the department was combined. It used to be the fire department. Back in the 90s, the charter changed, and we became the Department of Fire Building and EMS, Emergency Services, which all encompasses basically codes, the ambulance, and the fire service. We operate out of 2 stations, 3 ambulances, 2 at Central, which is down by Pizza Hut, and the Satellite Station, Station 1, which is up on First Street, 1 ambulance out of there. 3 guys operate out of Station 1, 4 guys operate out of the Central Fire. The ambulance, we do everything with the ambulance, transport, emergency. We have 17 medics on the department. We provide ALS. We basically can do anything the ER can do in the back of that rig, except for x-rays. The state's changed some protocols up lately, and now they're even looking at Olean General Stroke Center, I believe, and the cardiac SNEMI center, which helps us because we can take them directly there. We also have the ability to bypass the ER and go right to the helicopter and have them flown right up to Buffalo or to a trauma center or a stroke center up there if needed. And if medical direction has us do that. That's basically on the ambulance side of it. The fire side of it, it's kind of like all-encompassing. Naturally, when we come with what I call the braid, the lights and sirens, usually you call the fire department because you're not having a good day, you know. But we do handle everything from cats in the trees, still, on there, to full blown out fires that you've seen across the city out there. We do participate in a mutual aid agreement with the county, which means that the volunteers and the fire departments around the community come in to help us, and then we also go out to help them outside. The fire department also does the fire division. We also participate in doing fire safety inspections along with the code enforcement side of it. We have a smoke detector program where we'll go out and help place smoke detectors in there if they don't help, and that's also sponsored by the union. The union helps, they pay for the smoke detectors on there. Carbon monoxide detectors, they also participate in. Basically, if we go inside the house, we don't see a smoke alarm, we don't see a carbon monoxide detector, we're going to leave one there, or we're actually going to install it for them, because our belief is that if we leave that house unprotected, I think we all would feel bad if they had a fire and the alarms weren't going off. Smoke alarms, they're there to warn you early, get you out of the house. Call us. Basically, I'll tell you, all you guys and everybody out there, call us early. It's a lot easier handling these situations when they're small, as opposed to when they're full blown and get large. A lot of people are embarrassed about it. I don't have to bring the lights and sirens each and every time. If you call up and say, well, my electrical socket's kind of like sparking, I don't know what's going on, the chances are you're going to get an engine without the lights. He's going to come what we call code 1, and we're going to evaluate the situation. Meanwhile, the other troops are coming in also in the way. Those two systems, the ambulance and the fire engine, work together. So you have at times in the city where all the ambulances are out and all the guys are out handling EMS, and your fire protection is basically down to me and a couple other people, codes who will help us out also. Biggest question we get, why does the engine go with the ambulance? And the engine goes with the ambulance because we have to be able to respond to that engine to other parts of the city if you get a fire call when we're out there, or an EMS call. Those engines are equipped with ALS equipment on it also. We also have the meds on those ambulances. We also have the defibrillators on those engines. So basically, the engine does everything the ambulance does, but can't transport. The reason it goes is because the manpower it takes on a cardiac arrest now is between meds, defibrillation, CPR, and driving the ambulance. You're looking at least 4 guys there. So on a cardiac arrest call, you get 5 guys show up. They take the ambulance, and then usually there's 1 guy with that engine left to take the engine to follow the ambulance to the hospital. So if you get a fire call in between, we respond also. That's why the engine goes with that ambulance. That's probably the biggest question we get. So why does that engine go? The other biggest question, another question I get is, can we deal with 1 station in Olean? Well, Olean's demographics has changed, obviously, with North Union Street. You got 2 one-way streets now, basically. Without a study being done, my opinion is we probably could get away with 1 station strategically located in the city. Is there grant money out there? Absolutely, there's grant money out there, but the government wants us to be shovel ready. What do they call it? Shelf ready or shovel ready? They want you to have the land, they want you to have the plans, and they want to know that we have a coin in this game too, so that if we ask for grant money, they give us grant money to build a new station. So basically that's the fire and the EMS side of it down there. My office, I operate down the Central Fire Station. That's where I'm at. What I passed around was I went through the ordinance book, and what you see there is basically what code enforcement is responsible for. Anywhere from signs to buildings. It will give you what section of the code pertains to it. Sometimes codes comes off as an all-encompassing complaint area, which is fine. We'll take the complaint, and if it's not our responsibility, we try to push that off to whoever it is. Basically, you call us, we're going to help you. So, mainly, you guys usually call it codes. You usually don't call codes with that you're building a box store. Usually, it's the garbage. Usually, it's that issue. The garbage issues, the sign issues. Usually, that's when you have. I've included those sections for you guys to look at, so that's right there and help out. The codes office is operated by Captain Jennings. You call him, and a lot of you have. Eddie helps out all he can. He's really helpful. Tracy and then Ryan Reed's the civilian up in that office also. Other than that, question? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just curious, are we still, I remember when we did our drills, are we still the backup for the county?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just
We
curious.
still participate. Matter of fact, we just talked a couple weeks ago with the mayor and Jeff over getting that program like we have a newer mayor down here, getting up and going again.
Chris Baker, right?
Yeah, with Chris Baker. No, Chris is chief of Allegheny, but my understanding is he's still in the county. So, yeah. And then I understand too with the appearance tickets, and I'll let Jeff talk about that we fall underneath that full disclosure also when we issue appearance tickets. Other than that,
Good, that's it, I think.
You done good, man.
What do you really think, what do you really think, Nate?
Oh, just a bug you.
I know what you told now.
Just a bug.
Any questions for the chief? Okay, thanks, chief. Let's go right to the other chief. Jeff?
All right, so a brief rundown of my department for you. So we have 34 officers in the Illinois Police Department. 27 of them are in the uniform division. I have a uniformed officer in the school, a school resource officer. I have 3 investigators. 2 of them work on regular criminal investigations. One is primarily designated as a juvenile officer. However, he does help the other 2 when needed. I also have 2 undercover officers. They work in what we call the street crimes unit, which for those of you that are not familiar with that would be our version of the drug task force. They strictly work, for the most part, in the city. Sometimes we will work in conjunction with the drug task force. If we have a case that overlaps with them, we'll also help. Sometimes we'll ask them for help or vice versa. Also under my command, the court officers that you'll see down the hall during the day, they work for me. They are, however, paid through the state. We pay them, I oversee them, and the state reimburses the city for that. So when you see that on your line item, that's a reimbursed cost. We have 3 school security officers, which is a fairly new program that we implemented last school year, I think toward the end of last school year. And they work in Eastview, Washington West, and sometimes the middle school. It's been a very well-received program. Everybody seems to be happy with that. And last I talked to Rick Moore, he's even possibly considering adding more. But that's up to them. They also reimburse us the cost for that as well. We just oversee the training and the scheduling and just oversee the daily operation of those officers in the school. They are retired police officers, or there's a certain criteria, but most of them are retired police, probation, parole officers, those types of things. Also, I run the dispatch office. There is 5 full-time and 2 part-time dispatchers that work in there. That's about all I can tell you about the structure of the department. Any questions about that? So we're a little bit different than Carrie and or Chris. I can't follow up with the Tai Chi or the line dancing. We don't have any fun stuff like that. What we do is pretty straightforward. I would like to update you and talk to you about a couple of things that are important though. So last year, the council graciously gave me some funds to buy body cameras, which we currently do not have yet. They gave me a large down payment on the camera system. I subsequently then won an award, a federal award, for body cameras in the amount of $56,000. I have a whole new appreciation for what Carrie does for a living, because going through this federal grant for me has been quite challenging. And I still have not yet got from the federal government permission to actually order the cameras. I'm very close. I'm in the final stages of that. So hopefully in the next month or so I'll be able to actually order them. I think I've completed or jumped through all the hoops that they've asked me to jump through to get this done. When that happens, then we'll have a transition period where we'll implement the cameras on the street, get everybody used to it. And so I just wanted to update you on where that was. We talked about cameras for a long time, and people sometimes will say, where are the cameras, where are the cameras? Well, had we not gotten the grant, they'd have been on the guys a long time ago. However, that really pushed me back about 6 months or so, going through all of the stuff that's required to get that money. So that's it on the cameras. Looking at how policing has changed, not just for us, but in general, it's been a huge change in the last couple of years, this year in particular. Those of you that may follow it or may not, now a person who's considered a juvenile is up to the age of 18. Used to be we could arrest somebody who was 16 or 17 years old. They could be charged as an adult. They could be put in handcuffs. They could be locked up in a cell. That's not the case anymore. The government has changed the laws on that. So unless you're 18 years old, you are considered a juvenile. And there's a whole separate set of rules involved in that. So that was the beginning of the change for us. And then I'm sure everybody in here is aware of the new legislative law changes on bail reform and or the discovery reform. If you follow social media at all, you've probably seen it or seen it on the news. So I'll quickly give you a breakdown of that and a little bit about how it's affecting us. So the first thing, which I think is the most serious of the two, is the Bail Reform Act, which was passed, it became effective in January, which basically, the genesis of that is that the government doesn't want people in jail awaiting their sentencing. They want everybody out of jail. So what they did is they passed a sweeping legislation that as of January 1, for the majority of crimes, everybody gets an appearance ticket and gets released. I'm not going to go down through the whole list of crimes. I don't have it in front of me. It's quite lengthy, but unless it's a violent crime or something very serious, you basically we process you through, fingerprint, photograph, if it's a misdemeanor or a felony, and then we have to let you go. We can't keep people in jail anymore. Also, in addition to that, the judges, even when we do have the ability to keep somebody in our lockup, the judges have a whole new set of rules that they have to go by. It basically kind of takes away a lot of their ability to make decisions on who should stay, who should be locked up, and who should be released. And it's presenting a problem. Because basically somebody could go out and commit crimes every day, twice a day, 3 times a day. We're just going to give them a ticket and let them go. So, vehicular manslaughter, a lot of serious cases, burglary of your home. And the judge can't even take into consideration where the person lives, prior criminal record, any of that stuff. So you can have somebody from New York City come here, burglarize your residence, and we catch them. They can fight with the police, have drugs on them, and even have a weapon on them. They're going to get an appearance ticket and be released. And that's the reality of the situation. So what I foresee with that is, and you're already starting to see it in social media a little bit, there's a huge backlash already where some cases have come up, some high-profile cases, and there's a big push on, as there was before the law, what's happened, for the legislator to go back and revisit this and make some changes. How long that's going to happen, I don't know. Unfortunately, I think somebody's going to have to get hurt or killed before this happens. So that's what we're dealing with right now. For us locally, for me, what that's going to mean is we're going to have a lot of reoffenders because there's no locking people up anymore. For me, it's just hard to conceptualize that you can have somebody, you arrest them, they fight with the police, they resist arrest, and they have to give you a ticket and let you go. And if you're drunk or high or whatever, that doesn't matter. They still have to let you go by law. They can't keep you. It's a ridiculous, crazy thing that's going on, and I have no idea where that's going to go. But it's certainly the morale of every police officer in the county and the state. So that's just number one. Number two, the other crazy part is the new discovery reform. Typically, before this, if you got arrested, if you got an attorney, the attorney that represented you could ask the district attorney's office for anything related to the case or specific things related to defend you. They might want a phone record or a statement that was given, and the district attorney's office would provide that. It didn't happen all that often. It was once in a while, or if it was a big case. The new law basically mandates that with every single arrest we make, or codes or anybody, that we're obligated within 15 days to turn over every single thing we have related to that case. Every phone call, every video, every statement, every photograph, every piece of paper, every officer's note, everything we have must be turned over by law within 15 days, or their attorney can move for the case to be completely dismissed. This has presented a huge problem for every DA's office and every police department in the state. Mm-hmm. Everybody's scrambling, figuring out how they're going to do this. Because it's a huge amount of work to gather all that information, even though it's not even requested by the defense. We're required to provide it.
Where are you supposed to send that information?
Well, obviously, everybody's been working through this nightmare. We're required by our district attorney to turn everything we have over in 5 days to the district attorney. So while the district attorney has 15 days to turn it over, we only have 5 days to turn it over to the district attorney's office. Everything we have in 5 days on every arrest. And then they will turn it over to they'll typically know who's representing this person or whatever. Now, if the person doesn't have an attorney, they have to turn it over to that person. And this goes much further, we don't have enough time to go into the little details of all the other things that related to this. But basically, what I've had to do, is I don't have an excess of personnel, this is a job that requires a little bit of skill, you gotta be good with computers, we have a lot of different types of systems that record many different things. And so temporarily, until I figure out a better way to do it, and we'll talk about that briefly, I've taken a sergeant who works the night shift, and I have him working days, doing this full time, just to maintain compliance. In order to do that, I now have a shift half the week, 3 days of the week with no supervisor working, which is not a good idea. It's never a good idea not to have a supervisor working. But I really have no alternative in order to do this. Because you can't, because our supervisors also take calls. And this isn't the type of job where you can take calls and handle your officers and get all this work done. It just can't be done that way. So in the interim, that's what I've done. And you'll see going forward when we get to the budget talks that I'm going to be looking forward to adding an officer just to do this work. I know the district attorney's office are going to be trying to put people on. Everybody in the state is going to have to hire people to do this task. It's a monumental thing to gather all this information, provide it in a timely fashion. It's a lot of information. I think that eventually you'll see changes in the bail reform. I don't think you'll see changes in this. I think that's probably here to stay.
You know, Chief, we went away over New Year's, and I happened to talk to an attorney in another state, and I was just asking him just about the discovery part, and he kind of explained what theirs was all about. So then I let him read what our new law is, and he said, wow. He said, that is way above and beyond what other states are doing. So I guess I'm curious why we're so radical here
Well,
in New York
my
State.
understanding of it is that in New York City, like Rikers Island and some of the places down there, that what was happening over long periods of time is you'd have somebody that got arrested for like a misdemeanor offense. And maybe they didn't have any money, they're unemployed, or they're homeless, or whatever the case may be. And they were sitting in jail for like a year, waiting to go to trial or for their case to come up. Whereas here, that wouldn't happen. You know, you'd get a public defender, you'd be out on release or whatever after you spent a small amount of time locked up. And it was happening at such an amount that they felt they needed to do something. And how they took what was a legitimate problem and made this sweeping change for the entire state instead of addressing the issue that was the concern. That being said, you can also talk to people that feel that there was injustice, that poor people were being punished because they couldn't bail themselves out versus people that had money, and race component. You know, they're saying that more people of color were locked up. There's a lot to it, but that's the genesis of it. That's where it started at. And the legislator passed this sweeping law that looks like it's totally written by defense attorneys. And both of those pieces make all of us much more unsafe than we were before. Because even when we do make an arrest, even if somebody is locked up, the amount of work that this puts on the district attorney's offices, who is already overworked, what do you think is going to happen to all the cases? A lot of cases are going to get dropped or dismissed or pled out, or they won't be able to keep up with the work, and the attorney will find a reason to have the case dismissed. I mean, so this is going to be a real problem for everybody.
Definitely.
So unlike John, who gave you a bunch of good news, that's what I got. Any other questions?
It comes down to it's another unfunded mandate by the state of New York to the local governments. So
It is kind of generated from the big cities. We're kind of paying for their problems.
And all the state associations, the chiefs of police, the sheriffs, everybody, like the conference of mayors, even the I think it was the assistant attorney general in New York State was against this. Everybody's come out against it, but it's too late. It's passed, and I haven't heard of any real movement towards having it looked at. I mean, there's a lot of people complaining, but
there is a movement. I'll find out more.
But just imagine for the officers, or me, I got 30 years on this. Is flies in the face of everything that we've ever done. You know, you catch these people, and you have to let them go before the ink's even dry, and you let them go.
We just had a shoplifter that was arrested.
So we got a guy like 4 times with shoplifting. We can just keep arresting him and keep letting him go.
Different places, and $1,000 in each place is what I was told, correct me if I'm
Well, the
wrong.
one place was 1,000, yeah, and then he had a warrant for another larceny, and we found him on the warrant, he had stolen TVs in the back of his car from another place, and what this has done is taken the deterrent away.
Right.
You probably saw with that recent meth house that we did on 2nd Street. We couldn't even arrest the people because when you have any type of arrest that involves testing, lab testing, it takes anywhere from 2 to 7 or 8 months to get the lab results back. We're required to turn that over in 15 days. Well, we can't get it in 15 days, so we don't arrest them on the spot anymore. We'll go do the search warrant, gather up all the evidence, let the people go back into their house once we release it, and it might be 6 months from now before those people get arrested. Then we have to go find them, and they may not even be here anymore.
Yeah,
And meanwhile, they're going back in business the next day selling drugs and making meth.
and you're putting the whole neighborhood in danger.
Right. So I mean, working with a council in different, like each one of you at one time or another has had a drug house in your neighborhood, and your constituents are on your butt about it, and you come to me, well, now it's gonna be even worse, because even if we go arrest them, within an hour, they're gonna be back there. They're not gonna go to jail like people expect them to happen, and it's not gonna happen anymore.
Yeah, talk to you later when I was campaigning this year, my word told me there's 3 separate areas of drug houses. So I don't want
Well,
to
usually,
here, but.
usually we're aware of, not all, but most of them, and these investigations take a long time, and a lot of times we take them to grand jury for indictment, so we do sealed indictments and all that. But the ones where we actually have the tactical team go out and do a search warrant, typically we arrest everybody in there that we can prove is affiliated with the drugs or whatever. Now that's not gonna happen anymore. Everybody's just gonna get released and may not get arrested for 6, 8, 9 months.
And what's testing costs? Do we get a bill from the state for everything we send out to be
No,
tested?
you have to send them to certain labs, and the state police labs is who we use, and of course everybody uses it, and they're just overwhelmed, and this is just gonna make matters much worse. There used to be a lot of cases like you could arrest somebody, let's say for criminal possession of a controlled substance of some kind. That case may get pled out, and that sample may never even get tested. Well, now every single sample has to be tested. You know, I don't know what the percentage was, but probably it was a great percentage of samples of evidence that probably never got tested because the defendant pled out and it didn't need to be tested, and then it could be disposed of. Well, now every sample that's taken by every police department in the state is gonna have to be tested. So that's just gonna push the labs way back. And I don't think the state has any intention of opening new labs.
The other thing about this new law too, is that your house could get burglarized, and the court could.
They can appeal
They can
to the
appeal
court
for
to go
that,
back in your house.
to come back into your house. The defendant and his attorney, or just the defendant, appeal to come back into your house and relook at everything in that, so,
Plus, don't you have to give them your personal information?
yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch,
Oh,
like
yeah.
parentheses, we
Just-
So I
got
read
everybody's
through it.
Yeah,
personal information.
It's ridiculous.
You have to turn over all the information, the witnesses, and,
Yeah.
This was signed into law by the governor, wasn't
Yep.
yep.
it? Okay, so
Since
Makes you
January
wonder
1st.
what side.
next time you vote, please remember that,
Yeah.
when you vote for governor.
Well,
That's
you
why
know,
it's so
but the
radical.
sad
Tell New
thing
York
is-
City
And it was passed by a
Yeah.
single political party. This was not a bipartisan, this was passed by a single political party. I don't like to point fingers, but they took it to us on this one.
Yeah. But you know what, Nate, I think what Chief Raleigh said, I think they looked at the big cities, and we shouldn't be treated
But
as a
he's the
big city,
governor of New
we're
York,
not a
not the
big
governor of New
city.
York City.
Yeah.
This is gonna make us all a lot unsafer than we were before.
I agree.
Right, they did the same thing with the landlord laws this year. Like eviction laws all written out of New York City, and they just keep modifying that, and nobody else in the state is actually creating their own. So now you've got people that have a legitimate problem in New York City with rent control and all these other different hierarchies of things going on, and then they all of a sudden they pass something in New York City that sweeps across the state. So
So, I mean, for the two new aldermen, you're not really new, you're back again, by all means, if you have anything for me, my office is right across the hall, you're welcome to come see me anytime.
Sounds good, Chief.
Yep, right directly across the hall.
Okay. Need a break
No, I just gotta take a call quick.
now? You want us to wait for you?
No, go ahead.
Okay, we're gonna do, where are you going? Aren't you having fun?
We're gonna take pictures of the basketball game. It's an eventful night.
You see the back last? No.
Do you need something signed?
They signed it.
Okay. Okay, Brad, you're up.
Past Fred's bedtime.
Thanks for all that road.
The city
Pass 'em out? Yeah, I think I can do that.
office is open Monday through Friday from 7:30 to 5 o'clock.
Please,
You will find myself or Glenda Jester and Gary Bell in my office. I know you probably want to get home really quick, but I have a handout going around that describes my main role and Terry and Glenda's. But I think I could kind of summarize this by saying that, I don't know how many of you thought of this, but the city of Olean, in a way, it's a business, and it's a $25 million business. Between the general fund, the water fund, the sewer fund, there's $25 million worth of business transacted. Every check that is issued, every dollar received is accounted for in our office. We are required by New York State to have an independent audit done of our operation. We work with our independent auditor, GWB, down the street, and annually they do an audit on our office to make sure that we are compliant and our numbers make sense. We're also responsible for issuing paychecks for around 155 full-time people, maybe 60, depending on the time of the year, 60 to 80 seasonal workers. So the payroll function runs through our office. Anything to do with health insurance for current employees or retirees is handled by our office. So in a nutshell, we are responsible for the financial disclosure of a $25 million business. The people that you've talked to here, along with myself, are responsible for the operations of the city. I don't know if I make it more concise than that, but it's quite a job. I think we do a good job managing our city. I think Glenda and I and Terry try to do a great job in our particular department. I'm responsible for issuing all the internal financial reports, working as the liaison with our banks and our bond consultants. Whenever the council decides that we want to undertake a project, so the recreation center or North Union Street, whatever, it's my job to bring all the parties together to make sure that particular project is funded and gets off to a good start. I don't know if you have any specific questions, but it's in the handout. Again, I think I could best describe it by saying Terry, Glenn, and myself are overseeing a $25 million business. All of the checks that are issued, payrolls, accounts payable, every vendor that submits a bill is issued out of our office. I'm not sure if you have any specific questions. What I will say to the new alderman is that in the past, I've made it clear to them that our office is always open. And the one thing I don't like happening is questions getting fired at me on the council floor. So I'd rather you call me on the phone with a question, email me. Again, our doors are open, and we have a tremendous amount of historical data for every line item in the general ledger. So we're at your disposal to help you make good financial decisions as well, and what works best in your ward.
If the city down the road chooses to go out and bond something, what is our bond rating?
It's A. Which is decent, could be better, could be a lot worse. I came here in 2010 and we were just coming out of a very difficult situation. And I think Paul and Nate and Linda will tell you that we've been here for what, 6, 8 years?
This is my
8 years. We're in pretty good financial standing. We have an adequate fund balance in all 3 major funds. So we've been able to accomplish a lot since I've been here.
Okay,
Just refresh.
last but not least, Bob Ring from DPW.
Sign you up.
Len's is on a day off, so we'll have him do something at another meeting.
Everybody get a handout? I only had 7 of them.
We didn't get one. We didn't get one.
I don't have one here.
Here.
There's some more. Is this?
That's one.
Sorry, oh, that's
That's
one.
it.
Yeah, Linda.
I'm Bob Ring, I'm the Public Works Director, I'm a licensed engineer. My focus is in construction and transportation, but the city, I also oversee the environmental side with water and sewer and buildings and structural, everything that kind of would fall under the civil engineering banner. We're broken up into 13 different divisions. I've got 64 employees with 55 full-time employees. And 7 supervisors. I'm going to run you through all our divisions, but my role, I guess, from oversight is I oversee budgeting, I oversee staffing and project prioritization, quality control and safety. I'm the chair of our DPW safety team.
You're doing a great job keeping up.
I'm going to be short.
You want to go, we'll sign it. Okay.
One of our big focuses, I guess, in our department is to continue to do work internally with the 55 people that we have, and I'll start with our general fund. And if you don't know, we're split into 3 different funds, as Fred kind of said. General fund, which a portion of our budget is paid out of, and then the water fund, which is completely separate, and which is also completely separate from the sewer fund. Those are all funded through, or the water and sewer fund are funded through water and sewer revenues, separate from the general fund, which is generally funded through taxes. So starting with the general fund, our streets division is made up of 7 people. They're housed at the city garage on Berry Street. This time of year, they're plowing, they're filling potholes, they're doing tree work and things like that. In the summer, they're doing hot patching, filling potholes. Our mill and pave and our tar and chip program, they're managing their trucking, continuing to work on trees. Our labor divisions go through like a work order program, and I'll kind of get into that when I talk about our administration division. Our parks division is made up of 5 people. They're housed down at the Bradner Stadium shop, and they maintain all our city parks, including mowing, which takes up a great deal of their time in the winter. Winterizing. Between streets and parks, we're putting up and taking down Christmas decorations on Union Street and West State Street and around the stadium and in the parks. Parks repairs a lot of our facilities, including Gargoyle, Warvets Pavilion, including our parks as well, playground equipment and things like that. They repair and replace in-house. And our electric division is made up of 3 people. They're also housed at Bradner Stadium in the shop. They oversee everything that's electrical in the city, from our building lighting to our 1,300 street lights, Our underground electric lighting, the city owns several hundred street lights themselves in Seneca Heights and Stardust District. Anything that's underground, that's decorative lighting, is owned by the city. All the lights that are along North Union Street and a number of lights that are along West State Street are all city-owned. The ones that are on the wood poles generally are owned by National Grid, and we rent them. Right now, we're going through a conversion from the halogen lights that are up there now to LED in an effort to reduce our costs, reduce our energy usage, and also there's an incentive to that right now. So we put in some funding, $12,000, and we're getting $80,000 back from them. So that's something that's going on right now that may be discussed. They also operate at our water and sewer plant, our SCADA system. So our SCADA system is essentially like the brain of our water and sewer plant. We have operators there, which I'll get into a little bit more, but our SCADA system is constantly taking data, flow data, data of the makeup of our sewage and our water, so that our the chemicals that we put in sewage and water can be administered correctly, and our operators oversee that. But the SCADA allowed us to go from a 3-shift water and sewer plant to a 1-shift water and sewer plant, because it's basically running the plant. When our industry isn't running and using up a lot of water, then our SCADA system, it can call our operators in. It can, if there's problems, if there's loss of power, then it'll talk, like either text or if people are around the plant. There's audible alarms and things like that. It's kind of like, I like to say that it's like the Alexa of our water and sewer plant. It's thinking, it's talking to us. So electric division oversees all that work. They also maintain and operate all our traffic signals in town, push buttons and ped heads. If there's an issue with those, the electrical division through a work order system would go out and take care of that. They maintain our ID system, so the way that you get inside and outside the buildings, they take the pictures, they manage that whole effort. They oversee all our fire alarm systems for all our buildings, and they do inspections and oversee and work with consultants on making sure that they're certified and kept up to date annually. Our engineering division, which is on the 2nd floor in the city building, they wear a lot of hats. They survey around the city, not only for our capital projects, but other projects, smaller projects, but also for city line, defining the city line. And they take that survey data and do a lot of design in-house this time of year. They're designing on capital projects. They design on a generator project. They're experts in specifications and researching civil type projects, grading, and site plans, and they'll take a survey, they'll do the design, they'll do the contract administration. Most projects that the city does comes out of the engineering department in some way. And then they also inspect. We have a water line project coming up in the summer. They're going to be the ones out on the roads inspecting, making sure quality control is good on our projects, and taking notes and making sure that spending and other things are kept under control. So our city forester, Sue Cooper, I oversee her operations, but she's really the expert in investigating our trees. If there's a complaint against them, she goes out, and our system right now is for her to inspect them, make a recommendation, and then it goes to our tree board, and the tree board makes a determination on what to do with, say, a citizen complaint on a tree, or any complaint on a city tree, and that board essentially manages, the tree budget. As you see, in budget time, that money is kind of spent through the tree board. They allocate the money. We have a mechanics division. They're housed at the city garage, and they manage a fleet of about 170 pieces of equipment, including about 70 pieces of heavy equipment, anything from mowers to 10-wheelers, to tractors, the police cars, the fire engine, the ambulance, you know, they do it all. They do a lot of warranty work, but they also will do engine rebuilds, deep dive projects. There are some projects that we use consultants on, or we have to have outside help on, but it's pretty rare. They do quite a bit of work for having 4 people, and there's a supervisor there that oversees, works with suppliers and does all the warranty work, and also orders all our pieces of equipment when we buy new. His name's Mark Donahue, and then our airport. So we have an airport. It's located in Nishaway. I oversee operations there. It's right now managed and maintained by part-time workers. It's open 5 days a week, from 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock, and it's a small plane airport mainly. We don't have commercial flyers. A lot of our funding up there comes from FAA grants, so annually we're working with the FAA to fund projects up there. There are a number of regulations with the FAA with what projects are eligible, so I'm communicating with them and communicating with the council on how to budget and plan for projects up there.
Is that still running in the red, the airport?
Yeah, about 100,000 in the red.
And each grant we get, we have promised to keep it open for an extra 20 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Have there ever been any commercial inquiries?
We don't have runway distance. I don't think we have the runway distance.
Yeah, the runway's not long enough.
Really?
For commercial plane.
For jets.
Has anybody looked to see if it's worth upgrading to get to that?
We would need like hundreds of millions of tons of dirt to fill
Really?
those holes. I think me and Paul Gonzalez stood over it 4 years ago.
And so,
Stood over a ravine.
might not be a bad idea to do something like that again. It's been a couple of years now.
Yeah.
And
then
trees might have grown.
Linda, were you on the council then when we did those tours?
Oh, we did what?
The tours?
Windus took us up.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We did like the sewage plant. We did,
I mean, Dave's been up there, but Jason should go up and check it out.
yeah.
It's really a nice airport.
Oh, I'm up there quite a bit.
You're
Yeah.
not
So now, as far as it seems to me that it seems odd that that runway wouldn't support like small jet aircraft, commuters, stuff like goes in and out of Bradford.
It does support like a small jet, right?
Mm-hmm.
On a clear day, on a dry day, then it would support them, yes, but I don't think it's the backstory of the airport with commercial flights is that in the 80s when the FAA started taking over airports because airports didn't run in the black anymore, they all were losing money, and the FAA came in with a big pool of funding and started subsidizing basically every airport. And if you weren't a commercial carrier at that time, you couldn't be subsidized as a commercial carrier thereafter. So in order to take that on, you would have to have some kind of major business plan, and then I suppose at some point you could try and get into FAA funding, but like I said, like Bradford, other airports like that, they're all subsidized by the FAA already, the same as we are. We're just not a commercial airport.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta get rezoned. But towards the end of last year, we brought that up about the whole, we're always running in the red with the airport, and we keep logging in for more and more stuff. And I did some research, and I brought it up to the previous council prior to the first of the year. But the banks and all the people that Fred deal with for grant writing or not grant writing, but the bonding and all that other stuff, they use that as collateral. So where we put 5% down, the state matches 5%, and the FAA matches 95%. If we put a $20 million into that airport out of federal money, the banks look at that as $20 million of our asset to put down as collateral. So where we do that, we can keep leveraging for additional grant funding or better prices on interest and loans and things like that to be able to continue other projects we've got going on or things like that. So
You're still getting a county contribution too, aren't you, from the?
Very little.
Very little.
Very well. We'll work on that this year.
You should get that passed this year.
What's that?
You should be able to get that passed this year.
Let's see. Let's see. We had some real legislators who didn't want to assist, I'll say. So maybe we'll be able to have it change their heart, some of them. So we'll see what we can do.
And you still got fuel there too, I take it.
Yeah.
In my office upstairs, I have 3 office administrators, and they oversee the water and sewer billing office. They support all our divisions with issues that come up. We take complaints from residences. We pride ourselves on getting back to residences within the same day or within 24 hours. So if you have a complaint, if you don't think you can answer it yourself, call my office or call one of our administrators. They're going to get back to people. They're really knowledgeable. My secretary, our office manager, has 35 years experience with the city and does a really great job of keeping things running. Our division of labor, with like the fire chief said, with the codes offices, DPW is really generally within the right of way. Code enforcement, a lot of their duties, and we enforce some of the code within the right of way. Sidewalk program, signs at times, bushes and shrubs, and a lot of the property maintenance things that encroach on the right of way. And codes really, their property maintenance and building stuff related is kind of outside the right of way. At least that's the way that we look at it. Our division of labor, I work closely with the community development office. Carrie and I are both kind of grant writers and administrators. I generally handle street projects, water and sewer projects. We kind of share duties on parks and things like that, and park improvements, community development. But she handles like the private side and the other. She handles the bus transportation side. I don't really have much involvement with that. And then a lot of the private grants and other stuff, the community development things she handles. But our office supports the planning board as kind of the engineering reviewing authority. One of my big duties is managing capital projects. So I think probably the most important part is managing the budget of projects like that. So I'm going to do the estimating on a project. I'm going to do the invoice tracking and working closely with Fred. I want to know on a capital project basically how far we are along in the project and how much we've spent in the project at any time. And tracking that versus keeping projects on time and under budget. I'm on the beautification committee, which is West Union Street committee. Like I said, I'm on the safety committee for DPW, and I'm also on the fleet management committee. I'm going to get into sewer and water really quickly. Feel free to stop down at the sewer and water plant. They'd be happy to give you, any of you guys a tour. Honestly, they'd be really tickled to have any of you guys come down. They take pride in what they do. It's completely city run. We have state and federal oversight at our water plant. Our water is overseen by the Department of Health and the EPA, and our sewer plant is overseen by the New York State DEC and the EPA. But we do all the reporting to those agencies. We take samples. We basically make clean water and we clean sewage, and it's all done in-house with, I've got 14 employees at each plant. Half of them generally are operators and administrators. The other half are, our maintenance crews, whether it's maintaining our infrastructure at our plant, our pumps, our chemicals, our infrastructure on the hills, like our reservoirs in South Olean. We have a water tank and a pump station in North Olean at Stardust, and we have 100 miles of water lines that we maintain, and we have 700 hydrants that we maintain. So I have 4 or 5 guys. We have water meters in every single house. We maintain all of those, so 5,000 or 6,000 water meters. Same thing with the sewer. 100 miles of storm sewer, 100 miles of sanitary sewer. We maintain them, we clean them, we fix issues. Generally, again, our jurisdiction kind of ends at the right of way for water and sewer as well. So I guess think of it that way. If a citizen is having an issue with the water or sewer, a lot of times if it's in the right of way or if it's with our water main or our sewer main, it's our problem. If it's not, if it's house related, if it's a leak, if it's a meter, they can give us a call. We might be able to support them, but a lot of times that's, on the property owner.
What's that, Bob?
Yeah, I think so.
Any questions about it? Okay, well, that's, like I said, Lenz will do him, we'll have him come in sometime in the future. He was unavailable tonight, so. Okay.
Are the IT guys gonna come, Jason or Jerry?
Didn't plan on it, we could, didn't we?
Okay, I just think because we've updated so much of the security, it would be something that I'd like to know more about.
Okay.
City Attorney's Department, I don't see him today.
He's not here either, so. Okay, for David and Jason, your city emails, that's mainly how we'll be communicating to your city emails, so make sure you have those up and running. If you have Dick Beechey will send you all the information on what to do there. If you have a problem, call the IT office. Okay?
Yep.
And one of the things that's important, we do have a chain of command structure. And if you have something you're looking for or interested in, get a hold of the department head. Please do not go to the rank and file. So go to the department head, and if you send them emails, copy me on the emails, and especially if it's a request, then I track it and make sure things are getting done. So, okay?
I have one thing I'd like to add too to that, just for the new guys. There's going to be an agenda, council agenda distribution list that we'll all be a part of, that Tiffany's going to send out weekly. You do not want to reply to that email because there's media on there. There's all sorts of city.
Or at least don't reply all.
Yeah, if you want to reply to Tiffany, make sure you hit reply to Tiffany. Not if you send something to that, like we've had in the past, it's never been like an issue or a problem, but for somebody to reply with a question or whatever, and they might not want, WSBU and W whatever the heck, what I mean, the Land Times Herald.
Sorry, Don.
Yeah. No offense.
Thank you for not cluttering my email. Good enough. So, is my personal email okay, or do you want me to have a city email? Because I got the agenda last time, I think I have my personal email from you.
Well, I'll tell you what Nick will tell you is that from a legal standpoint, if something were to happen, your personal email would become discoverable. So I think you might want to use a city email for city business. So that's your choice. If you want to go to your personal email, then
it's very easy to set it up on your phone though. Like that's how I have mine. Everybody does. So.
And Jason and Jerry can actually forward it to your personal email.
I don't delete anything off of that. Let them do it. Then I can't be called the Clinton.
Yeah. So was that the facility needs report, or were we going to go into that today, or?
You want to wait 2 weeks?
I would
Bob
be
looks
fine with
tired.
that. Does anybody object to? We could stay here for another hour and a half.
I'm down.
Well, we already have a copy of it.
Yeah.
It's just an update for Jason.
Well, it's kind of our request, but.
This facility?
It's only the first full week of January, don't it?
Well, do you mind if I take 30 seconds?
Yeah, of course.
The top need in our facility needs report is, as if you remember, is the Times Square entrance and issues we're having with the masonry and stuff over there. I guess if we want to get that into construction, this construction season, I got to have at least some indication before we put in all the legwork to put together contracts, specs and things of whether it's going to be funded. you know, I don't think it's gonna be a budget item, it's gonna have to be something we find funding for. You know, I think it's gonna be somewhere around between 100 and 125,000. Should I get started on putting together a real number for that, like a bid number? Is the funding gonna be there if I put in all this effort to get it in construction this year?
Thoughts?
Isn't like some of the drainage now dumping on like the city's boiler? We're getting dangerously close to the city's like heating unit, which is like ancient, and we want to try to hold off as many years as possible before having to replace that.
There's a cracked beam and there's rebar exposed in the basement that needs to be taken care of, and then there's that breezeway. If you remember, it's like a bent breezeway where there's a hole like this size that's just growing because of the salt and because of the ramp. So the idea is going to be to cut all that out and re-pour it into some kind of permanent structure with weeps and, you know, permanent, like something that's going to be good for 20, 25 years. This water that sits out there, that'll be taken care of just with the catch basin and the EDA upgrade.
This has been something that we've kicked down the road long enough.
We're,
I agree.
it looks like we may be, in the area of 100,000 over the 15% of our fund balance that we set. So that may be an avenue.
Well, I think this too it has to do with public safety, because that's one of the ways they come in. And, you know, we'd be liable if somebody gets hurt, so, and it's ADA compliant, so.
It's just gonna get worse.
Yeah.
It's one of our,
I mean, that's the most critical, right?
Yeah.
With George not here, is he the one that normally does the salting? Because I came for the State of the Union address, and there was like right where I parked, there was like it looked like 2 bags of salt had been dumped there. So just throwing that out there.
I think it would be a priority.
Remind me again about where we're at with that. There was a project that involved putting numerous yellow flashing lights throughout the city. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, pedestrian safety action plan.
Yeah.
The design report is going to be submitted like in the next week. We just kind of work through all the intersections, and the design report, it's a grant project, so we got to submit it to the state, and then they give us design approval if they agree with it. And after that, then we do the final plans, and then again, so it's kind of a long process. It may get into construction this year.
Okay. Do you think at a committee meeting this month, maybe you can give us a 5-minute, like, just a refresh on where those are all going to be? And I've had some input in the last couple of weeks from other people or individuals or organizations where they think that this should go here and then. And a lot of them make sense, and I honestly don't remember where all of them were, where we were going to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
It doesn't have to be a PowerPoint, just a quick, you know, whatever. So.
Sure.
Can I make a comment on the facility here? I will say, with all due respect, I don't view it that we kick the can down the road, because this back entrance, that whole area, for quite a few years was presented more as an aesthetic issue, not as a safety structural issue. Though I do think over time it has morphed into a structural safety issue, so it's become something bigger. So I'll speak for myself. Yes, I will support it, but I would ask that, can we keep it, you know, you say around 100,000. I would like to see it stay around 100,000. But I see it as, you know, it's holding water now. I get out there, and if you park near the entranceway, you step into 2 inches of water, and, you know, it's probably, well, not probably, it's going to get worse, not better. So you would have my support if we can keep it to the 100,000 number.
I think it was probably in 2012, 2013, Tom Windows tried to fix some of that degrading, and it was just kind of in-house fixing, but even since then it's gotten worse. So I think it has been ongoing, just getting worse year by year.
And it wasn't until like the fall or something you brought it up to us that you actually noticed a hole in the concrete with the exposed rebar and water getting in. And
yeah, I worked on the original project like 5 years ago when we tried to fund it. And you're right, we were just going to do some sidewalk changes. We may not have fixed the root of the problem, so it's not good that it happened, but now we all will fix the root and go on period.
So then we're good with Bob moving forward, getting better numbers?
Yeah.
Ours with me.
Yep, good with me. And you didn't say 100, you said you thought it was gonna be close to 125, is that what
I mean, I'm just guessing,
Okay.
between 100 and 125.
just wanted, yeah, I didn't want you to nail them to 100, and I thought I heard 125, so
We did have a consultant look
We
at
know
it.
Bob will get us the most bang for the buck, and
Okay.
I'm not being sarcastic. You do a good job.
if you can get demolition done, I think that'd be awesome. Bang.
All right, so we have no committee, anything else? Okay, we have no committee reports to approve. I will make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? So seconded by Alderman Witt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
90 minutes, David, what did I say?
Yeah, you're good, Bill.
Huh?
Yeah.